The AI economy has changed what's possible for small and medium businesses. Access to tools, knowledge and expertise has never been greater, but access is no longer the advantage. The real difference now is in your capability, your human, leadership, business and digital capabilities, and that's what this podcast is all about. This is Make Time for business owners who want to lead rather than be led. I saw a headline this week that said AI was basically a waste of money and that much of the current AI boom is a fake it till you make it scenario, with companies building solutions for problems that don't exist. And it's true. AI tools frequently create distraction loops where time spent trying to make the tool work exceeds the time it saves. This could be you too. You may have invested time, money, or both into AI in the last 12 months, maybe quite a lot. And there's a reasonable chance you've questioned whether you're getting out what you've put in or whether it's a complete distraction. Unless you're an alumni of a recent 25/8 program, that is, you may have considered that the output is faster, but not always better. In McKinsey's study of AI research, they found that the great majority of businesses now use AI somewhere in their operations, but a much smaller proportion report meaningful value. Stanford's AI index confirms the same pattern, and especially at the small business level. Use has increased, but value hasn't increased at the same rate. I'm going to share what I believe is the actual cause of this disconnect and what I think every business owner should be doing about it. Welcome to Make Time. I'm Sam Hurley, CEO of 25/8, and I'm passionate about helping you and your business thrive. In this episode, I'm going to take you through the 4 capability layers AI is actually amplifying, the 1 capability AI can't create, and what to consider before any further AI adoption in your business. For the last 2.5 years, the public conversation about AI in business has been almost entirely focused on the tools, which tool to use, or which AI software tools to subscribe to, which prompts to use, how to automate your workflows using X tool. Tool conversations are useful for a window because they orient us. They help make the abstract feel concrete, but they have a ceiling, and I think we've hit it. Here's what I mean. When the printing press arrived in the 1400s, it was revolutionary. That was welcomed by scholars and a growing middle class, whilst equally causing panic among the elite scribes and anxiety among religious authorities. It was an early example of tech panic, with strong opinions on both sides. Rather than go into the debates, which I actually do think are interestingly similar to the conversations happening today about laziness and loss of jobs, a lot of the conversation for a brief period was, which printing press should I buy? The Gutenberg, a steam-powered cylinder press, a rotary or an offset printer perhaps. Then the conversation stopped being about this miracle of technology, a machine of ideas, and it became, what am I going to print? Who am I trying to reach? What do I have to say that's worth printing? The tool became the infrastructure. The questions then became about capability. And that's the moment we're currently in with AI. The tools have commoditized, the differentiators are no longer in the tool stack itself, they're sitting underneath it, in the human, in the human's leadership, in the business and operational layers that determine what the tool gets used for. I think we've reached a point where awareness of AI is reasonably high and a large proportion of businesses are using or intend to adopt AI within the next 12 months. We've gone from not using AI at all to deciding whether it's ChatGPT, Claude, or another AI chatbot to integrated workspace tools. It's not about the tool now, it's about how you use it, what you use it for, and the outputs. And this is where it can get a bit tricky for business because AI is an opportunity and not a fix. It doesn't fix what may not currently be working as well as it could. In fact, often it amplifies it. Here's a simple framework to consider. Capability times AI equals output. It's a multiplication, not an addition. 10 plus 0 is 10, but 10 times 0 is 0. This is important to understand because if your underlying capability is strong, if your decision making is sharp, your operations are clean, your team's aligned, your strategy is clear, then AI is transformative. It compounds you and the multiplier kicks in. You experience what some of the headlines promised. But if your underlying capability is weak, if your decision making is reactive, your operations are messy, your team is misaligned, your strategy is fuzzy, then AI gives you something different. It gives you fast, mediocre output at scale. So weak capability multiplied by AI equals fast mediocrity at scale. And this is the tricky part and what I've observed of those trying to implement without capability. It isn't because the AI is failing them necessarily. The AI is doing exactly what it was designed to do. It's amplifying. It's just amplifying their chaos or distracting them because they don't have a solid strategy to steer it. There's research from Eric Brynjolfsson at Stanford that goes back almost a decade that shows that this isn't a new pattern. He found that AI is most accurately understood as augmentation, a multiplier of existing human and organizational capability, rather than as a replacement or a substitute. The companies that capture AI's value capture it because they have the capability infrastructure underneath. The ones that don't. But because there are people with tools who want you to buy their tools and people that want you to buy their courses and their workshops, the popular conversation has been about selling tools or using a tool for a specific purpose. That frame requires you to believe that the tool is enough. So that's the frame the public conversation has been operating in. For some, this is enough because you've done the real work in your business and you can work it out strategically. For me, this applies here. But for others, and this isn't a failing, it gets them using tools and processes that aren't relevant to them, that distract them away from doing the work that would actually benefit them to do. Because the tool sells the promise of the outcome and you get something tangible, but the capability layer isn't always visible. So for small businesses who are often time and resource poor, the tool seems like the better option at the time. But once you can see the multiplier model, you can't unsee it. The question hopefully shifts from being, which AI tool should I buy next? And it starts being, what am I actually multiplying? From the research that I've led at 25/8, I consider there to be 4 capability layers AI amplifies in business. In the 25/8 framework, we talk about these 4 core capabilities plus 2 enabling conditions. And I'll walk you through each capability layer with an example so you can start to consider how this looks in your situation. And then we'll come back to a question of what to do to build them. So the first layer is human capability, and this is the most personal layer. It's the psychological foundation that you bring to your work, your mindset, the belief that you can act under uncertainty, your self-efficacy, your creativity, your resilience, the originality that lets you see something other people don't. This is the layer that sits underneath everything else. And this isn't because mindset alone solves business problems. It doesn't, but because without the inner conditions, judgment gets reactive and decisions get fearful and the team feels it. For example, an unsure business owner who questions their worth will get a very different output to a confident business owner who won't settle for what they believe is the wrong standard. This is also the layer that motivational AI content can't reach. The AI is going to amplify whatever clarity or lack of clarity you bring to it. Layer 2 is leadership capability, and this is how you direct, decide, and delegate inside your business, including the people, the systems, and now the AI and the AI agents you are running. It includes your judgment, your decision-making capacity, your delegation discipline, and the self-awareness that lets you tell when your own bias is in the room. This I've seen before in digital transformations. A business owner may subscribe to a new AI tool, or they've tried a new tool, they get value from it personally, and then they try and roll that out to the team. The team uses it badly, inconsistently, or barely at all, and the owner concludes that the AI tool doesn't work for the business. Almost always, the actual problem is upstream. The owner's not decided clearly what the AI is for. They've not articulated how the team's work is meant to change with it. They've not designed clearly the operating rhythm that makes adoption inevitable rather than optional. So it comes down to the leader not being clear, not having that direction, and the AI is exposing it. There's foundational research from Andy Bharadwaj at MIS Quarterly going back to 2013, before the current AI wave even started, that showed that the prerequisite for digital advantage isn't the technology itself, it's the leadership capability to align technology choices with strategic intent and to lead the operational change required to capture the value. Westerman, Bonnet, and McAfee at MIT made the same finding through different research a year later. The capability layer underneath the technology is the determinant of whether the technology pays off. That research has aged extremely well. It describes AI before there was AI to describe. Layer 3 is business capability. This is broader than a lot of people assume and includes the strategy, the vision, the mission, the customer understanding, the brand and the problem the business solves, alongside the operational integrity, the systems, the data, the workflows, and the financial management. A quick break to tell you about 25/8 Small Business Capability Gap. It's a complementary diagnostic tool that takes less than 10 minutes to complete. Your results will show you exactly where to focus, your capability gap, your opportunities, and your AI readiness. The link is in the show notes. Now back to the show. A quick test for this layer is if you walked into your business tomorrow and asked your team what the strategy is for the next 12 months and how it shapes the work they're doing this week, would the answers be coherent and consistent across the team? What if I asked you that question? In many businesses, the honest answer is no, or I don't know, or there's a vague idea that has been communicated once. Strategy tends to live mostly in the owner's head, if there's a strategy at all. Data lives across 3 CRMs or forms of and 2 note-taking apps. The operating rhythm is intuitive rather than designed. And all of that worked when the business is small enough to fit inside the owner's head. But the moment AI is brought in at scale, that infrastructure has to harden. AI loves clean inputs. Faithful execution against unclear strategy and partial data produces faithful chaos at scale. The AI does exactly what you asked it to do, applied to the data you gave it, and you get back the same business you had, just faster. I feel this. My data cleaning habits have become impeccable. No longer do I save multiple files to my desktop without any names. Files need to be saved in the right place with a clear operating system and roles and responsibilities. No room for ambiguity or the success rate decreases. This is the layer where I see the most underestimated work. It also tends to be the highest leverage when you fix it. The 4th layer is the digital and AI capability, and this is the layer the public conversation focuses on. It's the technology skill itself, prompting, workflow design, model selection, knowing when not to use AI, recognizing when AI has produced something wrong. And it definitely matters, but if it sits on top of the other 3 layers, it can't compensate for weakness underneath. Here's a useful test. If you find yourself thinking, I just need to find the right AI tool or the right prompt or the right course. Can I get you to pause and consider whether the capability gap may actually be elsewhere? The volume of free, high-quality AI training online right now is extraordinary. If digital capability alone were the bottleneck, the gap would already be closing. There is one category of capability AI cannot create. It can't amplify it, it can't support it, it can't manufacture it. And that category is embedded human capability. And by embedded, I mean capability that lives in the body. Capability that shows up reliably under pressure, capability that survives the actual conditions of running a business, the bad days, the unexpected calls, the financial pressure, the team conflict, the customer complaint at the worst possible moment. Reading about leadership doesn't make you a leader. Knowing about strategy doesn't make you strategic. Watching a course on resilience doesn't make you resilient. These capabilities have to be built in you, in your team, in your business, through structured experience, real stakes, and applied repetition. They can't be downloaded, they can't be prompted, and they can't be outsourced to a model. And that's what I mean when I talk about the capability era. The era we're entering, the one I think we're already in, is one where information has become essentially free. AI has commoditized it. Anyone can know almost anything and almost instantly. The competitive advantage of knowing things has collapsed to almost zero. What is rising in value in inverse proportion is the embedded capability to act, to decide, to lead, to build under real conditions with real consequences in your specific context. I find this part exciting because it shifts the playing field. Smaller businesses now have access to the same knowledge, the same tools, and increasingly the same insights as larger enterprises. What used to be enterprise advantage, the ability to invest in research, the ability to consult experts, the ability to access frameworks, has been democratized, much like back in the 15th century with the printing press, when it empowered people to think freely and challenge old authorities, to print in everyday languages rather than just Latin, democratized across to knowledge and books. The competitive advantage of AI moves to the layer that hasn't been democratized. Human capability, built deliberately, applied to the specific conditions of your business. So if capability times AI equals output, and AI is now roughly the same for everyone, then your output is going to be determined almost entirely by your capability. Can I get you to consider where your capability is currently strongest, where it's weakest, and what you're doing about it? And if you're not sure of the answer and you want a way to get an honest representation of where your capability is sitting, we've got a complimentary diagnostic that will help. 25-8 Small Business Capability Gap only takes 10 minutes, and it gives you a snapshot of where your strongest leverage is sitting, where your capability gaps are, and your AI readiness across our 4 capability domains, plus 2 enabling conditions. The link is in the show notes. The conversation we should be having about AI in 2026 shouldn't just focus on technology and isn't about the tool, the prompt, or the agent. It's about the human capabilities behind them. If you've just started thinking about AI in your business, you're not behind. You're early. The capability area is just beginning. The work you do on your own capability now is among the most leveraged work you can do in your business this decade. If you're in the middle of an AI investment that hasn't paid off, look at the layer underneath rather than the tool, and that's where you might find your answers. I'm Sam Hurley. Thank you for listening to this episode of Make Time. If this resonated with you, please share it with one person who you think also needs to hear it too. And I hope to see you in the next episode. Thanks for joining me on this week's episode of Make Time. Every week this season, we're going deeper on what genuine capability development looks like for small business leaders in the AI economy. If you found this episode valuable, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. To help other small business leaders, we'd love for you to leave a review or share this episode with them. And if you haven't done so already and want to know specifically where your capability gaps are, the 25-8 Small Business Capability Gap is our complimentary diagnostic tool. The link is in the show notes. It'll help you decide exactly where to focus so you can work smarter, not harder. And see you on next week's episode of Make Time.